Have you ever stopped to think about the secret to living a life filled with peace, clarity, and true happiness? A life where stress, anxiety, and frustration no longer dominate your thoughts? Welcome to Buddhism and Life, the channel where ancient wisdom meets modern living. In today's video, we're about to dive deep into 7 powerful Buddhist principles that can completely transform the way you live. If you think you already know everything there is to know about happiness or success, think again. These principles are going to challenge everything you thought you knew. Imagine for a moment. You've spent your whole life chasing after more money, more status, more things, thinking they're the keys to happiness. But what if I told you the real secret to peace has been inside you all along? What if the answers you've been seeking aren't out there, but within? In this video, we'll reveal the hidden truths of Buddhism that can help you find the lasting happiness you've been searching for. But here's the thing, this video is packed with knowledge, and if you want to unlock all of it, you need to stick with us until the very end. Trust me, every second counts and you won't want to miss what's coming next. The wisdom you're about to discover could change everything about how you approach life. So, hit that like button, make sure to subscribe, and let's dive into the transformative teachings that could set you free. Get ready, because you're about to learn something that can truly reshape your life. Principle 1. Live in the present. The Buddha's teachings are like a gentle breeze, sweeping through our hearts and minds, clearing away the clutter and noise of everyday life. At the very core of his wisdom lies the principle of living in the present moment, the art of being fully aware and engaged in the here and now. Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment, the Buddha advised. This is not just a fleeting piece of advice. It is a cornerstone of mindfulness, a practice that is the foundation of Buddhist philosophy. The present moment is a profound treasure, one that is often overlooked. We find ourselves caught in an endless loop of worries and regrets, our minds constantly racing between what has already passed and what is yet to come. The beauty of life, however, lies in the space between these two extremes. By focusing our attention on the present, we give ourselves the gift of peace, joy, and fulfillment that is not dependent on anything external. Let me take you back to a simple yet profound story from Buddhist teachings. A young monk, deeply troubled by the mistakes he had made in his past and the fears he harbored for his future, approached his teacher for guidance. The teacher led him to a garden where an ancient tree stood, its roots deeply embedded in the earth, its branches reaching toward the sky. The teacher asked the young monk, "What is this tree doing right now?" The young monk responded, "It is simply standing, rooted in the earth, with no concern for the past or the future." The teacher smiled and explained, "Just like the tree, you too can find peace when you are rooted in the present moment, when you stop worrying about what has already passed and what is yet to come." This powerful lesson teaches us that, like the tree, we too can stand tall and grounded in the present, allowing ourselves to experience life in its fullness without the burden of past regrets or future anxieties. The Buddha understood that the mind is often like a restless monkey, jumping from one thought to another, often pulled into the past or the future. The beauty of mindfulness and living in the present is that it allows us to tame the monkey mind, to train it to be still, and to live in harmony with the present moment. Living in the present offers a profound sense of freedom. When we are fully engaged in the now, we are no longer enslaved by our thoughts. We are free to experience life as it is, unclouded by judgments or expectations. This freedom opens the door to happiness, as it frees us from the weight of our past mistakes and the anxiety about the future. Take, for instance, the practice of mindful eating. How often do we eat without truly savoring the food? How often do we rush through meals, thinking about what we need to do next, or worrying about something that happened earlier? Mindful eating is an invitation to bring your full attention to the present moment, to truly taste each bite, to appreciate the textures, flavors, and the nourishment it brings to your body. In that simple act of eating, when we fully engage with the present, we open ourselves to a sense of gratitude and joy. Living in the present also means being mindful of our interactions with others. How many times have we been physically present in a conversation, but mentally elsewhere? When we are truly present with others, when we listen without judgment, when we respond with kindness, we foster deeper, more meaningful relationships. Our connections become more authentic, and our ability to empathize and understand others grows. In my own life, I've encountered moments when I realized just how precious the present moment truly is. I remember a time when I was facing a particularly difficult decision. The weight of the past and the uncertainty of the future clouded my judgment. I felt overwhelmed, paralyzed by the what-ifs that kept racing through my mind. One day, I decided to take a step back and simply breathe. I found a quiet place, closed my eyes, and focused on my breath. In that moment, I let go of the fears and regrets that had consumed me. I was no longer worried about the outcome, and I was no longer burdened by past mistakes. I simply existed here and now. It was as if a veil had been lifted, and I could finally see clearly. The answer to my dilemma came not from overthinking, but from the calm clarity that only the present moment could offer. That experience taught me a valuable lesson. When we let go of the past and future, we allow ourselves to access the peace and wisdom that reside in the present. It was only by letting go of my worries and focusing on the here and now that I was able to move forward with confidence and peace. One of the most powerful tools for anchoring ourselves in the present moment is the practice of mindful breathing. In Buddhism, breath is seen as a bridge between the body and the mind, a tool that allows us to connect with the present moment. By focusing on the rhythm of the breath, we can calm the mind and return to the here and now. In fact, the Buddha often spoke about the importance of the breath as a way to cultivate mindfulness. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha outlines the practice of observing the breath as a way to develop concentration and insight. When we focus on the natural rhythm of our breath, we become more aware of our thoughts and emotions, and we can more easily let go of distractions. One of the most famous stories in the Buddhist tradition is the Buddha's first teaching in the Deer Park, where he spoke to his 5 former companions about the middle way and the path to liberation. Before he became the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama had experienced both extreme indulgence and extreme asceticism. He discovered that neither of these paths led to lasting happiness or peace. Instead, he found that the key to enlightenment lies in the balance of living in the present moment, without attachment to extremes. This story is a reminder that the present moment is the middle way between past and future, between excess and deprivation. It teaches us that happiness doesn't come from chasing after fleeting pleasures or avoiding discomfort. It comes from being fully present and accepting whatever arises in the here and now. Of course, living in the present moment is not always easy. In our fast-paced, modern world, it can be difficult to slow down and embrace the present. We are constantly bombarded by distractions, social media, emails, news cycles, and the pressure to always be productive can make it hard to relax and just be. But the Buddha's teachings remind us that happiness is not something that can be obtained through external circumstances. It is a state of mind, a quality of being that we cultivate from within. The present moment is always available to us, but we must choose to engage with it fully. This takes practice, and it may not come easily at first. However, with time and patience, we can train our minds to focus on the now, to be present with whatever is unfolding. Here are a few practical tips to help you cultivate mindfulness and live in the present. 1. Practice mindful breathing. Take a few moments each day to focus on your breath. Inhale deeply and exhale slowly, paying attention to the sensation of the air entering and leaving your body. This simple practice can help you center yourself in the present moment. 2. Engage fully in your activities. Whether you're eating, walking, or having a conversation, try to give your full attention to the task at hand. Notice the details, the sensations, and the feelings that arise. By being present in the moment, you enrich your experience. 3. Let go of the past and future. When you notice your mind wandering to past regrets or future worries, gently bring your attention back to the present. Remember, the past is gone, and the future has yet to come. All we have is the present moment. 4. Meditate daily. Meditation is a powerful tool for training the mind to focus on the present. Even just a few minutes each day can make a big difference in how you experience life. 5. Cultivate gratitude. By appreciating what is right in front of you, you develop a deep sense of contentment. When you are grateful for the present moment, you are more likely to find peace and joy in it. The Buddha's teachings on living in the present moment are not just philosophical ideas. They are practical tools for creating a life of peace and happiness. By letting go of the past and future, we can experience life as it truly is, without the distractions of regret or fear. Living in the present is not always easy, but it is always possible. And when we make the effort to be present, we open ourselves to the joy, peace, and wisdom that are inherent in every moment. The present is a gift, and when we fully embrace it, we unlock the deep well of happiness that resides within us all. May you find peace in the present moment, and may the wisdom of the Buddha guide you on your journey to happiness. Principle 2. Practice compassion. Compassion is one of the most powerful tools for transforming our lives. It's a quality that transcends boundaries, reaching beyond just the kindness we offer others. Compassion is not just a gift to the world around us. It is a profound gift we give to ourselves. In Buddhism, compassion is at the heart of human connection and spiritual awakening. It is the antidote to suffering, the bridge that connects us all, and the force that can heal the deepest wounds. The Buddha's teachings on compassion are grounded in the understanding that all beings, whether human, animal, or even those beyond our immediate awareness, share the same basic desires: to be happy and to avoid suffering. To cultivate compassion is to recognize this shared humanity and act in ways that promote peace, understanding, and love. Compassion is not just an emotion or a feeling. It is a practice, one that requires intentionality and mindfulness. It involves seeing beyond our own pain and limitations and extending a hand to others without judgment and with a genuine desire to help. I remember a particular period in my life when I felt overwhelmed by work, relationships, and personal challenges. There were moments when I was frustrated with the people around me, especially when they didn't meet my expectations. My mind would race with irritation and resentment, thoughts of, why can't they just do this or that? But in the midst of these emotions, a realization began to surface. I too have my struggles, and I too am doing my best in the face of life's complexities. Everyone, including the people who were causing me frustration, has their own burdens. This shift in perspective helped me step back from my feelings of frustration and start practicing compassion. I realized that compassion is not just for those who are easy to love, but especially for those who challenge us, who test our patience, or who, for whatever reason, don't meet our expectations. In these moments, I reminded myself that compassion isn't about excusing harmful behavior, but understanding the deeper context of another person's actions. Compassion is about seeing someone not as a source of irritation but as a fellow being who is, in their own way, seeking peace and happiness just like me. One of the most touching stories I encountered about compassion comes from the Buddha's teachings. A young monk, constantly troubled by his past mistakes and future anxieties, sought the advice of his teacher. The monk was caught in a cycle of self-blame, reliving his past errors and worrying incessantly about the uncertain future. His teacher, seeing the turmoil in the monk's heart, led him outside to a tree standing tall in the garden. "Look at the tree," the teacher said. "What do you see?" The young monk observed the tree, noting that it stood firmly rooted in the earth, its branches swaying gently in the wind. The teacher then asked, "Does this tree worry about the past? Does it worry about the future?" The monk shook his head. "Exactly," said the teacher. "This tree does not concern itself with the past or the future. It simply stands in the present moment. You too can find peace when you stop worrying about what has already gone and what is yet to come." In this story, the tree serves as a symbol of natural compassion, offering its shade, beauty, and strength to all without discrimination, without fear, and without attachment. The monk's lesson is profound. When we release our attachment to past mistakes and future uncertainties, we make room for compassion, not just for others but for ourselves. Compassion helps us to release the grip of anger, resentment, and regret. When I first started practicing compassion more consciously, it wasn't just about being kind to others, it was about being kind to myself. I realized that self-compassion is just as important, if not more, than showing kindness to others. So often, we are our harshest critics, dwelling on our shortcomings and failures. We forgive others easily, but we are unforgiving of our own mistakes. In moments of difficulty, instead of turning inward with judgment, I began to extend the same kindness I would offer a dear friend. I treated myself with the same compassion I would offer someone in pain, and this was transformative. It allowed me to be less critical of myself and others, creating space for healing, growth, and peace. One of the core practices in Buddhism that cultivates compassion is known as metta or loving kindness. Metta is a boundless, unconditional love for all beings, without distinction or preference. It is the wish for all beings to be free from suffering and to experience happiness. Loving kindness isn't just about thinking nice thoughts. It's about sending out positive energy and goodwill, even to those who may not reciprocate it. It's a universal love that isn't attached to any specific person, but instead directed toward all beings. In the Metta Sutta, the Buddha outlines the practice of loving kindness, beginning with cultivating love and compassion for oneself and gradually extending it to others. Here's an example of how we can incorporate metta into our daily lives. 1. Start with yourself. Begin by focusing on yourself, silently wishing, "May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be free from suffering." 2. Extend to loved ones. Next, move outward. Think of someone you love dearly and wish the same for them. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free from suffering. 3. Expand to all beings. Finally, expand your loving kindness to include all beings, regardless of their actions or beliefs. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from suffering. This practice helps cultivate a heart full of compassion, allowing us to see the good in others and in ourselves. It fosters empathy, tolerance, and understanding, creating harmony within our hearts and the world around us. The Buddha himself was a living example of compassion. One of the most powerful stories of his life is his encounter with Angulimala, a notorious bandit. Angulimala had killed many people, and his reign of terror had spread fear throughout the region. When he encountered the Buddha, he was on his way to kill yet another victim. The Buddha, seeing the suffering in Angulimala's heart, did not react with fear or anger. Instead, he spoke to him with calm and loving kindness, urging him to abandon his violent ways. In that moment, Angulimala's heart was transformed. He realized that his path of violence was one of suffering, not happiness. Under the Buddha's compassionate guidance, Angulimala became a monk, dedicating his life to finding peace and helping others. This story beautifully illustrates the transformative power of compassion. Even the most hardened hearts can be softened by love, understanding, and patience. Cultivating compassion doesn't require grand gestures. It is found in the small, everyday actions we take. Here are a few practical ways to integrate compassion into your life. 1. Listen with empathy. When someone shares their struggles with you, listen without judgment or interruption. Allow them to feel heard and understood. Often, the greatest gift we can offer someone is our full presence. 2. Practice patience. The next time you feel frustrated or impatient with someone, pause and breathe. Recognize that they too are human, and like you, they have their own burdens to carry. 3. Be generous. Compassion isn't always about offering material things. It can also mean offering your time, energy, and attention. Helping others, even in small ways, brings joy to both you and those you assist. 4. Forgive yourself and others. compassion begins with forgiveness. Whether it's forgiving someone who has wronged you or forgiving yourself for past mistakes, forgiveness clears the way for healing and peace. 5. Practice compassionate self-talk. Instead of being harsh with yourself, offer words of kindness. Remember that mistakes are part of being human and they do not define you. Treat yourself with the same compassion you would show a friend. Compassion is one of the most profound teachings in Buddhism, and it is not just an act of kindness, it is a way of being. By practicing compassion, we cultivate a heart full of love and understanding. This brings peace not only to others but to ourselves as well. The more I practice compassion, the more I realize how essential it is for unlocking happiness in our lives. Compassion frees us from the grip of negativity, opening us to deeper connections with others and with ourselves. It is the key to breaking down barriers, healing wounds, and building a more peaceful world. May the practice of compassion bring peace and joy into your life, just as it has brought countless others. Principle 3. Embrace simplicity. In the modern world, we are often told that happiness comes from accumulation. The more we have, the more content we will be. More wealth, more possessions, more experiences, and more achievements are seen as keys to a fulfilling life. But, according to the Buddha, this belief is one of the root causes of suffering. He taught that the cycle of desire and attachment is endless, and true happiness cannot be found in external possessions or accomplishments. Instead, it arises from simplicity, the ability to need less, to let go of attachments, and to find joy in the small, often overlooked aspects of life. The Buddha's teachings remind us that happiness is not about how much we accumulate, but about how much we are able to let go of. Attachment to things, to people, to status, to the idea of perfection creates suffering because it makes us constantly seek more. We constantly feel that something is missing, that our happiness depends on acquiring the next thing. But in reality, happiness is found in the absence of this craving, in the quiet space between desires. In Buddhism, attachment is understood as the mental and emotional clinging to things, people, or experiences. Attachment causes us to believe that our happiness is dependent on obtaining or maintaining these things. However, the Buddha's insights reveal that nothing in the material world is permanent. Our wealth, possessions, and even relationships are all subject to change, decay, and loss. When we attach ourselves to these things, we inevitably experience suffering when they change or disappear. In the Dhammapada, one of the key texts in Buddhism, the Buddha says, "All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering." This teaching is central to understanding why attachment creates suffering. By recognizing the impermanence of everything in life, we can begin to detach from the need to possess or control. True contentment, the Buddha teaches, comes not from the accumulation of more, but from the letting go of unnecessary desires and attachments. This is the essence of simplicity. Simplicity, in the Buddhist sense, is not about deprivation, but about recognizing that we do not need as much as we think we do in order to be happy. In recent years, there has been a growing movement toward minimalism, a lifestyle that emphasizes living with less. People are downsizing their homes, reducing their possessions, and focusing on what truly matters in life: relationships, experiences, and personal well-being. Minimalism has gained traction not only because of its environmental benefits, but also because it encourages a shift away from consumerism and the endless pursuit of more. At its core, minimalism reflects the Buddhist principle of simplicity. Minimalists prioritize quality over quantity, and their focus is on cultivating a life that is rich in meaning and peace, rather than one that is filled with distractions and possessions. While minimalism is not the same as Buddhist simplicity, the two share a deep connection. Both advocate for the idea that happiness is not found in material wealth, but in the ability to live intentionally and mindfully. One key aspect of minimalism is decluttering, not just physical possessions but also mental clutter. Letting go of unnecessary distractions allows us to focus on what is truly important. This practice aligns with the Buddha's teachings on simplicity and contentment. In the absence of excess, we create space for clarity, peace, and happiness to arise. Take, for example, the common belief that happiness will come once we reach a certain milestone, whether it's a promotion at work, the purchase of a new car, or the acquisition of a bigger house. In our society, there is often a subtle but pervasive idea that success and happiness are defined by what we have and how much we've accumulated. We chase after these goals, believing that the next achievement will bring us fulfillment. But when we attain these goals, we often find that the satisfaction is fleeting, and the cycle begins again. This is the cycle of desire that the Buddha warned us about. The Buddha compared desire to drinking salt water. It only temporarily quenches our thirst, but it ultimately leaves us thirstier than before. The more we chase after external validation, the more we feel that something is missing. But when we let go of this endless pursuit of more, we realize that true contentment is found in appreciating what we already have. I've witnessed this cycle many times in the lives of others. People believe that the next promotion, the bigger house, or the more expensive car will finally make them happy. But when they achieve those things, they often find that they are still unsatisfied. In fact, they may feel even more restless, because the excitement of acquisition fades quickly. The joy that we seek in possessions is always temporary. This realization is where simplicity comes in. When we let go of our attachment to these external markers of success, we open ourselves to a deeper, more lasting form of happiness. We begin to recognize that what we already have is enough, that the love of family, the peace of mind, and the beauty of the present moment are what truly nourish our souls. I once worked with a colleague who epitomized the cycle of more. He was constantly striving for more money, more recognition, more success. He worked tirelessly, sacrificing his health, his relationships, and his time for the next promotion or the next big deal. He thought that once he reached the next milestone, he would be happy. But as time passed, I saw him grow more and more stressed, exhausted, and disconnected from the things that mattered most. Despite his professional success, he seemed perpetually dissatisfied. Eventually, he had a wake-up call. After a health scare, he realized that his life had been consumed by the pursuit of material success, and in doing so, he had neglected his health, his relationships, and his inner peace. He decided to make a shift. He began focusing less on external achievements and more on his health, his family, and his personal well-being. Slowly but surely, he started to experience a sense of fulfillment and happiness that had eluded him before. This transformation didn't come from acquiring more. It came from focusing on what truly mattered. He simplified his life, let go of the pressures to accumulate, and embraced a lifestyle that was grounded in love, health, and inner peace. The Buddha himself lived a life of simplicity, and his example serves as a model for those who wish to follow his teachings. Before he became the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama had everything that a person could desire: luxury, wealth, power, and status. But despite having all of these external markers of success, he felt deeply dissatisfied. He realized that the life of indulgence and attachment was not the path to true happiness. He left behind his palace, his family, and his riches in search of the true nature of existence. This renunciation of attachment is a key part of his path to enlightenment. The Buddha's life is a testament to the idea that true freedom comes when we detach from the things that bind us, whether they be material possessions or mental cravings. One of the Buddha's key teachings is the middle way, living in balance, avoiding the extremes of indulgence and deprivation. This balance is at the heart of simplicity. It is not about denying oneself the pleasures of life, but rather about recognizing that true happiness is not found in excess. It is found in the simplicity of the present moment, in the relationships we build, and in the peace we cultivate within ourselves. So how can we embrace simplicity in our own lives? Here are some practical steps that anyone can take to cultivate a simpler, more peaceful existence. 1. Declutter your space. Start by clearing out the physical clutter in your environment. A tidy space creates a calm mind. Let go of possessions that no longer serve you and focus on the things that truly bring you joy or utility. 2. Prioritize what matters. Simplify your commitments. Take a step back and evaluate what truly brings value to your life. Focus on the relationships, experiences, and activities that nourish you. Say no to things that drain your energy or take you off course. 3. Practice mindfulness. Engage in the present moment. Instead of constantly striving for more or worrying about what's next, focus on the here and now. Whether it's savoring a meal, enjoying a conversation, or simply appreciating the beauty of nature, mindfulness allows us to find contentment in the present. 4. Let go of excess. Ask yourself if your desires are truly necessary. Do you need more possessions, more status, or more recognition? Or can you find happiness in simplicity? When we release our attachment to these external markers of success, we find that we already have everything we need. 5. Focus on health and well-being. Simplifying your life also means taking care of your body and mind. Prioritize self-care, meditation, exercise, and healthy eating. True happiness is built on a foundation of physical and mental well-being. In the end, embracing simplicity is about finding peace in the absence of excess. It is about letting go of the things that weigh us down and focusing on what truly matters. True contentment comes not from having more but from needing less. By simplifying our lives, we open ourselves to the joy and peace that are already present within us. When we live simply, we create space for gratitude, for connection, and for inner peace. We no longer feel that we need to chase after the next big thing to be happy. Instead, we find that happiness is already here, in the simplicity of the present moment. As the Buddha taught, happiness comes not from what we have, but from what we let go of. When we embrace simplicity, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of craving and desire, and we discover a deeper, more lasting happiness. One that is not dependent on external circumstances, but on the peace we cultivate within ourselves. May we all find the courage to simplify our lives and embrace the joy that comes from less. Principle 4. Detach from desire. Desire is a powerful force, and as human beings, we are all familiar with it. We desire things, material possessions, status, success, recognition, love, and even experiences that we believe will bring us happiness. We believe that achieving these desires will lead to fulfillment. Yet the Buddha teaches us that attachment to these desires only brings suffering. True happiness, according to the Buddha, comes when we learn to detach ourselves from the need to always want more, to stop clinging to our desires and letting them control us. Desire, in its simplest form, is a natural part of human existence. However, when we become attached to our desires, when we believe that obtaining them will provide us with lasting happiness, we enter into a cycle of longing that will never bring us true peace. The Buddha's teachings provide us with the wisdom to recognize the difference between healthy aspirations and the harmful craving that leads to suffering. At the heart of Buddhist teachings lies the understanding that desire is not inherently bad, but attachment to desire creates suffering. The craving for external things, whether material wealth, recognition, or status, becomes problematic when we allow it to control us, when we allow it to define who we are and what we need to feel complete. Attachment makes us feel like we need more and more to be happy, and the more we desire, the less content we feel. In Buddhism, desire is often called tanha, which means craving or thirst. It's the insatiable longing for things that are fleeting and impermanent. The Buddha taught that this craving is the cause of suffering because it keeps us constantly seeking something that can never fully satisfy us. Desire often leads to disappointment, frustration, and anxiety, as we chase after things that we believe will bring happiness, only to find that happiness is fleeting. The Buddha's teachings suggest that we examine our desires and see them for what they are, temporary and constantly changing. When we realize that nothing in life lasts forever, we understand that attachment to desires only sets us up for disappointment. Everything, our possessions, our relationships, our status, can and will change. Understanding this impermanence is the key to freeing ourselves from the cycle of craving and attachment. One of the most profound stories that illustrate the nature of desire and attachment is the story of a man who was obsessed with accumulating wealth. He sought more money, more land, more power, believing that once he had everything, he would finally be happy. One day, he met a wise elder who handed him a handful of sand and told him, "Hold it as tightly as you can." The man clenched his hand around the sand, squeezing it tightly. But the harder he tried to grip it, the more sand slipped through his fingers. "Try again," said the elder. "But this time don't grip so tightly. Hold it gently." This time, when the man held the sand with a loose grip, most of it stayed in his hand. The elder smiled and said, "This is the nature of desire. The more you grip, the more you lose. But if you let go, you find peace and everything you need will be right there." The lesson here is clear. The tighter we hold onto our desires, the more elusive happiness becomes. The more we grasp at the things we want, the more we actually push them away. Desire, when tightly held, slips through our fingers like sand. But when we release the grip, we are able to enjoy what is truly valuable. The Buddha's insight into desire is captured in his Four Noble Truths, which form the foundation of Buddhist philosophy. The second truth, in particular, addresses the root of suffering, craving or desire. 1. The truth of suffering. Dukkha life involves suffering, dissatisfaction, and impermanence. We experience pain, loss, and frustration. 2. The truth of the cause of suffering. Samadaya. The cause of suffering is craving, our attachment to desire. This is the thirst for things that are fleeting, which can never bring lasting peace. 3. The truth of the cessation of suffering. Nirodha. Suffering can end when we let go of attachment to desire. Nirvana, the ultimate liberation, is the cessation of all craving and the attainment of peace. 4. The truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering. Magga. The path to the end of suffering is the Noble Eightfold Path, which includes practices that help us detach from desire and cultivate wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. Understanding that craving and attachment are the root causes of suffering is a powerful revelation. The Buddha's second truth encourages us to look at our desires and examine whether they are leading us to more peace or more suffering. When we become attached to desires, whether material, emotional, or even spiritual, we create a sense of dissatisfaction that leads to suffering. By letting go of these attachments, we free ourselves from this cycle. Desire often leads to a cycle of attachment, craving, and suffering. When we desire something, we become attached to the idea that we cannot be happy without it. We pursue it obsessively, often to the detriment of other aspects of our life, only to find that even when we obtain it, the satisfaction is short-lived. The next desire then arises, and the cycle continues. This is how craving keeps us trapped in suffering. Think of it like chasing after a moving target. No matter how much we achieve or how much we acquire, the satisfaction we gain is never permanent, and we are always left with the hunger for something else. This endless pursuit of more creates anxiety, frustration, and exhaustion, because we are constantly looking outside of ourselves for fulfillment, rather than recognizing that peace is within. The key to detaching from desire is to recognize that true happiness does not depend on acquiring more. By cultivating mindfulness and self-awareness, we can break free from the cycle of craving and find contentment in the present moment. Here are some practical ways to practice detachment. 1. Mindful awareness of desires. The first step to detaching from desire is becoming aware of it. When a desire arises, whether for material possessions, recognition, or success, pause for a moment. Notice where it comes from. Is it coming from a sense of lack or insecurity? Is it being driven by external pressures or internal fears? Just acknowledging the desire without immediately acting on it helps you gain control over it. 2. Recognizing impermanence. Everything in life is impermanent, and the Buddha taught that nothing lasts forever. When we recognize the impermanence of our desires and the things we seek, we can learn to let go. Realizing that everything, our possessions, our achievements, our relationships, is fleeting allows us to stop clinging to them and find peace in their transience. 3. Practice contentment. Practice contentment with what you already have. We often believe that we need more to be happy, but in reality, The things that matter most, love, peace, connection, are not dependent on material wealth. By focusing on what we have right now, we begin to see that happiness can arise from appreciating the present moment, not from chasing after future desires. 4. Cultivate gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to desire. When we focus on what we are grateful for, we shift our attention away from what we lack and instead appreciate what we already have. Make it a habit to reflect on the blessings in your life, whether it's your health, your relationships, or simply the beauty of nature. Gratitude grounds us in the present moment and helps us release the craving for more. 5. Let go of control. Often, our desires are tied to a need for control. We want to control outcomes, people, and circumstances to ensure that things unfold in the way we want. But life is inherently unpredictable, and trying to control every situation only leads to frustration and suffering. By letting go of the need to control, we open ourselves to life as it is, with all its uncertainties and surprises. 6. Meditate on non-attachment. Meditation is a powerful tool for cultivating detachment. By sitting in stillness and observing the flow of thoughts and desires without judgment or attachment, we begin to understand the transient nature of all things. Meditation allows us to witness our desires rise and fall without getting caught up in them, helping us detach from their grip. In my own life, I've experienced firsthand how attachment to desire can create stress and anxiety. For many years, I believed that achieving certain goals, whether career milestones or personal achievements, was the key to happiness. I worked hard, often at the expense of my health and relationships, chasing after what I thought I needed to feel fulfilled. But no matter what I achieved, the satisfaction was always short-lived. The next goal would appear on the horizon, and I would once again feel the emptiness of unfulfilled desire. It wasn't until I started practicing detachment, by letting go of my attachment to external outcomes, that I began to find true peace. I realized that happiness was not in achieving the next thing, but in being present with what was already here. By detaching from the need to control every aspect of my life, I started to experience a sense of freedom I had never known. I learned to let go of the pressure to constantly achieve and instead focused on living with intention and peace. This shift in perspective brought me closer to the joy that had always been within me, waiting to be discovered. Detaching from desire is not about denying ourselves the pleasures of life. It is about freeing ourselves from the attachment to those desires. When we let go of our cravings, we find a deep sense of peace and contentment, independent of external circumstances. The Buddha taught that the path to liberation is the path of non-attachment. By learning to detach from the things we crave, we can find true freedom and happiness in the present moment. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means freedom from the endless cycle of craving and the ability to experience life fully and peacefully. May we all find the wisdom to detach from desire and cultivate a life of peace, joy, and contentment. Principle 5. Cultivate gratitude. Gratitude is a transformative practice. It has the power to change our perspective on life, shifting our focus from what we lack to what we already have. When we begin to practice gratitude, we open our hearts to the abundance that already exists in our lives. It's a simple yet profound shift that can bring peace and happiness, even in the most challenging of circumstances. In Buddhism, gratitude is seen as an essential practice for cultivating joy and contentment. The Buddha himself emphasized the importance of appreciating what we have, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. His teachings on gratitude remind us that there is always something to be thankful for, even during times of hardship. When we cultivate a grateful heart, we unlock the capacity to experience joy and contentment, regardless of external circumstances. Gratitude is a practice that can be cultivated in any moment. It doesn't require grand gestures or extraordinary experiences. In fact, some of the most profound expressions of gratitude come from the simplest things in life, like a warm cup of tea, the beauty of a sunset, or the laughter of a loved one. When we cultivate gratitude, we stop taking these small blessings for granted and begin to recognize them as the precious gifts they are. In the Buddhist tradition, Gratitude is often linked to mindfulness, the practice of being fully present in the moment and appreciating the world around us. When we are mindful, we become aware of the countless blessings in our lives, both big and small. Gratitude helps us to see the goodness in our lives, even during difficult times. One of the most important teachings in Buddhism is the practice of appreciating the present moment. Often, we become so focused on what we don't have or what we think we need that we overlook the abundance that is already around us. Gratitude shifts our focus from scarcity to abundance. It helps us realize that we have enough, that we are enough just as we are. In one well-known story, the Buddha was once asked by a follower about the best way to cultivate gratitude. The Buddha responded by telling a story about a beggar who lived on the streets. The beggar, despite his circumstances, always seemed happy and content. When people asked him how he remained so positive, he would reply, "I am grateful for the food I eat, the shelter I have, and the warmth of the sun on my face. I am grateful for the people who smile at me, and for the kindness I receive from strangers." The Buddha explained that the beggar's practice of gratitude was the key to his happiness. Even though he had very little in terms of material possessions, he was rich in spirit because he saw the goodness in every moment. His gratitude allowed him to be at peace with what he had, rather than yearning for what he didn't. The lesson here is clear. Gratitude is not dependent on external circumstances. It is an inner practice that arises from the way we choose to view our lives. The beggar's ability to find joy and contentment in the midst of hardship was not because of what he had, but because of his ability to appreciate what was already around him. I recall a difficult period in my life when everything seemed to go wrong. My work was stressful, my relationships were strained, and health issues seemed to be piling up one after another. I felt overwhelmed and helpless, caught in a cycle of negative thoughts and emotions. During this time, I found it hard to feel grateful for anything. But I also knew that something needed to change. I realized that I had been focusing so much on what was going wrong that I had lost sight of the blessings I still had. So, I made a conscious decision to practice gratitude. I started small. Instead of focusing on the stress at work or the problems in my relationships, I began to acknowledge the things I could be thankful for, things that I often overlooked in the hustle of daily life. I was grateful for the roof over my head, for the food on my table, for the warmth of the sun shining through my window. I was grateful for the love and support of my family and friends. Slowly, I began to see the abundance that was already present in my life. My mindset shifted from a sense of lack to a sense of fulfillment. I realized that even though things were challenging, there was still so much to appreciate. As I continued to practice gratitude, I found that my worries began to fade. I stopped fixating on the things I couldn't control and started focusing on the simple, everyday blessings that brought me peace. The act of being grateful helped me find inner calm and restored my sense of balance. Gratitude, I realized, was not just about acknowledging the big moments of joy in life, but about appreciating the small, ordinary things that make life beautiful. In the Buddhist tradition, gratitude is closely tied to the concept of contentment. The Buddha taught that true happiness does not come from acquiring more possessions or achieving more success, but from accepting what we have with gratitude. When we are content with what we have, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of craving and attachment that leads to suffering. The Buddha's teachings emphasize that even in difficult times, we can always find something to be grateful for. Gratitude is an antidote to suffering because it shifts our focus from what is lacking to what is already present. This practice helps us find peace even in the midst of hardship. One of the key Buddhist practices related to gratitude is the act of reflecting on the kindness of others. The Buddha encouraged his followers to think about the many people who have helped them along the way. Parents, teachers, friends, even strangers. By reflecting on the kindness we have received, we deepen our appreciation for others and cultivate a sense of gratitude for the interconnectedness of all beings. Gratitude is not just about recognizing what we have, but about actively engaging with the world in a positive and appreciative way. When we focus on the blessings in our lives, we naturally begin to experience more joy and happiness. This is because gratitude connects us to the present moment and helps us recognize the richness of our lives. The Buddha said, "Let us rise up and be thankful, for if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we got sick, at least we didn't die." This teaching reminds us that even in difficult times, there is always something to be thankful for. Even the smallest of blessings, our health, our breath, the simple act of being alive, can be a source of joy and gratitude. When we are grateful for the things we often take for granted, such as good health, a kind word, or a quiet moment of peace, we begin to shift our perception of life. We move from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance. Gratitude opens our hearts and allows us to experience the fullness of life, no matter our external circumstances. So, how can we actively cultivate gratitude in our own lives? Here are a few simple practices that can help you bring more gratitude into your daily routine. 1. Keep a gratitude journal. Each day, write down 3 things you are grateful for. They don't have to be big or dramatic. Simple things like a warm cup of coffee, a kind smile, or a moment of peace. The more you practice, the more you will notice how many blessings are present in your life. 2. Practice mindful gratitude. Take a few moments each day to sit quietly and reflect on the things you are grateful for. This could be done in meditation or simply during a break at work. As you breathe, think about the people, experiences, and moments that have brought joy into your life. 3. Express gratitude to others. Take the time to thank the people around you, whether it's a colleague, a friend, or a family member. A simple thank you can go a long way in showing appreciation and strengthening your relationships. 4. Shift your focus. When you feel overwhelmed by what you don't have or what's going wrong in your life, pause and ask yourself, what can I be grateful for in this moment? Even in the midst of difficulty, you can find something to appreciate. A lesson learned, a new perspective, or the love of those around you. 5. Cultivate gratitude for challenges. While it may seem counterintuitive, practicing gratitude for challenges can be incredibly powerful. Difficult situations often bring growth, learning, and deeper understanding. By shifting your perspective, you can find gratitude even in adversity. Gratitude is a practice that can transform our lives. It shifts our focus from what we lack to what we already have, opening our hearts to the abundance of the present moment. In the Buddhist tradition, gratitude is a key practice for cultivating contentment, peace, and joy. It is a powerful antidote to suffering because it helps us recognize the richness of our lives, even in the most difficult times. When we practice gratitude, we learn to appreciate the small blessings that often go unnoticed. We become more mindful, more present, and more connected to the world around us. Gratitude not only enriches our own lives, but also deepens our connection to others, creating a sense of community and interdependence. May we all cultivate a heart of gratitude, appreciating the countless blessings that surround us. Through this practice, we can find peace, joy, and contentment, no matter what life brings our way. Principle 6. Meditate daily. Meditation is a practice that has been at the heart of Buddhist tradition for over 2,000 years. At its core, meditation is about quieting the mind, letting go of distractions, and becoming fully present in the moment. The Buddha emphasized the importance of meditation as a means to find inner peace, clarity, and ultimately, enlightenment. Through meditation, we cultivate mindfulness, develop a deeper awareness of our thoughts and emotions, and gain insight into the nature of our suffering and happiness. In today's fast-paced world, meditation is often viewed as a tool for spiritual seekers or monks. However, the Buddha's teachings are clear. Meditation is for everyone. It's a practice that transcends religious boundaries and is accessible to all who seek a deeper sense of peace and understanding in their lives. Meditation doesn't require years of training or extraordinary abilities. It simply requires commitment, patience, and the willingness to sit in stillness. The Buddha's teachings on meditation were transformative for those who followed him. He encouraged his disciples to sit in silence, focus on their breath, and observe their thoughts without attachment. the Buddha described meditation as a path to liberation from suffering. By training the mind to remain calm and focused, we develop the ability to respond to life's challenges with wisdom and compassion, rather than reacting out of habit or fear. One of the key aspects of Buddhist meditation is mindfulness, the practice of being fully present in each moment, without judgment or distraction. The Buddha taught that our suffering arises not from external circumstances, but from the way we react to those circumstances. Through meditation, we learn to observe our reactions without getting caught up in them. We develop the ability to simply be with what is, without feeling the need to change or control it. In the Satipatthana Sutta, one of the Buddha's core teachings, he outlined the practice of mindfulness meditation. He encouraged his followers to cultivate awareness of their body, their feelings, their thoughts, and their consciousness. By becoming aware of these aspects of our experience, we can begin to see the impermanent nature of all things and let go of attachment and craving. Meditation, according to the Buddha, is not just about achieving a state of relaxation. It's about developing wisdom and understanding the true nature of reality. One of the most profound experiences I've had with meditation occurred during a retreat. I spent several days in silence, immersed in the practice of sitting meditation, focusing on my breath, and letting go of all distractions. The retreat was held in a beautiful, serene environment, and I had the opportunity to disconnect from the chaos of daily life and enter into a deep state of presence. At first, sitting in silence was challenging. My mind raced with thoughts, worries, and distractions. Every time I tried to focus on my breath, my mind would wander off. But I persisted, gently bringing my attention back to the breath each time it strayed. Over time, I began to notice a shift. My thoughts slowed down, and the constant chatter in my mind grew quieter. I became more aware of the subtle sensations in my body, the rising and falling of my breath, and the gentle stillness around me. By the end of the retreat, I had experienced a profound sense of peace and clarity that stayed with me long after I left. The sense of calm I felt in meditation became a part of my everyday life. I realized that the quieting of the mind, the ability to let go of distractions and be fully present, was not something I could only experience in retreat. It was a practice I could bring into my daily life. This experience taught me that meditation is not just a temporary escape from the stresses of life. It's a tool for cultivating inner peace and clarity that we can access at any time, no matter where we are or what we're doing. It's a practice that can transform how we experience the world, helping us to respond with greater wisdom, patience, and compassion. Meditation is not just for monks or spiritual seekers. It's for everyone. Whether you are a busy professional, a parent, a student, or anyone navigating the challenges of modern life, meditation can help you cultivate a sense of peace and stillness amidst the chaos. Even if you only have 5 minutes a day, meditation can create space for clarity and calm in your life. Many people mistakenly think that meditation requires long hours of sitting in silence, or that you must clear your mind completely in order to meditate effectively. In reality, meditation is about practicing awareness. It's about noticing your thoughts without identifying with them, acknowledging your emotions without being consumed by them, and allowing yourself to simply be present with whatever is arising in the moment. Meditation doesn't require perfection, it only requires practice. Over time, the more you practice, the easier it becomes to return to a state of calm, even in the midst of stress or chaos. Just like any other skill, meditation improves with consistent effort, and the benefits are profound. Studies have shown that regular meditation can reduce stress, improve emotional regulation, enhance focus and concentration, and increase feelings of well-being. One of the most powerful stories about meditation in the Buddhist tradition is the story of the Buddha's own enlightenment. Before he became the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama was a prince who had everything a person could desire: wealth, luxury, and status. Yet, despite all of this, he felt an inner sense of dissatisfaction and a deep yearning to understand the nature of suffering and how to overcome it. Siddhartha left his palace and embarked on a journey of self-discovery. He spent years practicing extreme forms of asceticism, hoping to find enlightenment through deprivation. But despite his efforts, he found no lasting peace. Finally, he decided to sit beneath a Bodhi tree and meditate, vowing not to rise until he had found the truth. For days he sat in meditation, facing temptation, doubt, and even fear. But as he meditated deeply, he began to experience profound insights into the nature of existence. He realized that suffering arises from craving and attachment, and that the path to freedom lies in understanding the impermanence of all things. In that moment of deep meditation, Siddhartha achieved enlightenment and became the Buddha. This story is a powerful reminder that meditation is the path to inner wisdom and liberation. The Buddha's enlightenment came not from external possessions or achievements, but from a deep, unwavering commitment to understanding the nature of his mind and the world around him. Meditation, in the Buddha's own experience, was the key to unlocking profound wisdom and peace. Meditation is not just about finding temporary relief from stress. It's about developing a deep, lasting sense of inner peace and clarity. By practicing meditation regularly, we train our minds to be more present, more aware, and more attuned to the flow of life. We develop the ability to respond to challenges with equanimity, rather than reacting impulsively or with fear. One of the most powerful aspects of meditation is that it helps us to develop mindful awareness. Instead of getting lost in our thoughts or emotions, we learn to observe them with detachment. This allows us to understand the impermanent nature of our experiences and see them for what they truly are. As we become more aware of our thoughts and emotions, we begin to loosen our attachment to them, realizing that we are not our thoughts or feelings. We are the awareness that observes them. This shift in perception is what leads to greater peace and freedom. Meditation allows us to create space between our thoughts and our reactions, giving us the freedom to choose how we respond to life's challenges. It empowers us to live with greater wisdom, compassion, and understanding. If you're new to meditation, it can feel intimidating at first. But the beauty of meditation is that it's a simple practice that anyone can begin, no matter their background or experience. Here are some simple steps to get started with meditation. 1. Find a quiet space. Choose a quiet, comfortable place where you can sit without distractions. This could be a corner of your room, a park, or anywhere you feel calm and safe. 2. Sit comfortably. Sit in a comfortable position, either on a cushion or in a chair. Keep your back straight but relaxed, your hands resting on your lap, and your eyes gently closed or open with a soft gaze. 3. Focus on your breath. Bring your attention to your breath. Notice the sensation of the air entering and leaving your body. Don't try to control your breath. Just observe it as it is. 4. Let go of distractions. As you meditate, thoughts, feelings, and distractions will arise. This is completely normal. When this happens, gently acknowledge the thought and return your focus to your breath. Don't judge yourself or become frustrated. Simply observe and return to the present moment. 5. Start small. Start with just 5 minutes of meditation each day. As you become more comfortable, you can gradually increase the amount of time you spend meditating. Meditation is a powerful tool for cultivating inner peace, clarity, and wisdom. It's not just for monks or spiritual seekers. It's for everyone who wants to find more peace in their lives. Even just a few minutes of meditation each day can help you create space for stillness and clarity in the midst of the busyness of life. The Buddha's teachings on meditation remind us that peace is not something that comes from external circumstances, but from within. Through regular practice, we can quiet the distractions of the mind and connect with the deeper wisdom and stillness that lies within all of us. By making meditation a daily practice, we can unlock the transformative power of mindfulness and live with greater presence, awareness, and compassion. May we all find the time and space to sit in stillness, to breathe deeply, and to cultivate the peace that is already within us. Through meditation, we can unlock the wisdom and clarity that will guide us through life's challenges and lead us to a place of lasting peace. Principle 7. Follow the middle way. The Buddha's teachings are vast and profound, offering a blueprint for navigating life with wisdom and compassion. Among these teachings, one of the most important is the concept of the middle way. This principle is about finding balance in all aspects of life. It encourages us to avoid extremes, whether that's excessive indulgence or extreme austerity. Instead, the Buddha taught that true happiness comes from living in moderation, a life that honors both our spiritual and material needs. One of the most common misconceptions about Buddhism is that it advocates complete detachment from pleasure or an ascetic lifestyle of extreme deprivation. Many people believe that in order to achieve enlightenment or spiritual growth, we must renounce all worldly pleasures. However, the Buddha's teachings on the middle way tell us that true happiness and peace come from balance, not from denying ourselves the joys of life, but from finding a harmonious way to live that integrates our spiritual and material needs. The middle way is not a path of rigid self-denial, nor is it a path of indulgence. Instead, it's a way of living that promotes well-being, peace, and clarity, free from the extremes that lead to suffering. In embracing this principle, we learn to live with greater wisdom, understanding that true freedom comes from avoiding the trap of excess and scarcity. To understand the middle way, we must first explore the extremes that the Buddha was addressing. Early in his life, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, tried to find the answer to the nature of suffering. He explored both extremes, the indulgence in luxury and pleasure during his time as a prince, and the extreme austerity and self-mortification of a wandering ascetic. Neither of these approaches led to peace or enlightenment. Siddhartha realized that these extremes only created more suffering. Indulgence in sensory pleasures, whether through food, drink, or material possessions, leads to attachment, craving, and the inevitable suffering that comes from trying to hold on to things that are impermanent. Austerity, on the other hand, leads to self-deprivation and an unhealthy rejection of the body's natural needs. In both cases, the result is the same, suffering. In his quest for understanding, the Buddha found that the path to liberation lies in balance, the middle way. It's a path where we enjoy life's pleasures without becoming attached to them, and where we cultivate spiritual growth without ignoring the needs of the body and mind. The middle way teaches us to honor the body, the mind, and the heart, integrating them in a way that promotes harmony and peace. One of the most telling stories about the Buddha's realization of the middle way is the story of the Bodhi tree. Before his enlightenment, Siddhartha Gautama had experimented with both extremes. As a young man, he lived a life of luxury and indulgence in his father's palace. He enjoyed the finest food, beautiful clothing, and a life of privilege. But this indulgent lifestyle did not lead to satisfaction. It led to boredom and a sense of unfulfillment. In his quest for truth, he then turned to asceticism, abandoning all material comforts in an attempt to rid himself of attachment and desires. He ate very little, subjected himself to harsh conditions, and pushed his body to the limits of endurance. But he soon realized that this was no more fruitful than indulgence. It was not leading to enlightenment. In fact, he was weakening his body and mind, making it impossible to attain the clarity he sought. The turning point in Siddhartha's journey came when he was offered a bowl of rice by a young woman named Sujata. After taking the food, he realized that extreme deprivation would not lead to wisdom. He needed to take care of his body to be able to meditate effectively and find the answers he sought. The Buddha often likened the middle way to the string of a bow. If the string is too loose, the arrow will not fly straight. If it is too tight, the string will break. The right tension, the balance between too much and too little, is what allows the arrow to fly toward its target. Similarly, the middle way is about finding the right balance between indulgence and deprivation, allowing us to live a life of spiritual insight while maintaining harmony with the material world. Living the middle way means bringing balance to our daily lives, avoiding extremes that cause us unnecessary suffering. Here are some areas in which we can apply the middle way. 1. Work and rest. In today's society, it's easy to fall into the trap of overworking ourselves, chasing success and recognition at the expense of our health and well-being. On the other hand, we may become lazy or complacent, avoiding responsibility or effort altogether. The middle way teaches us to work with intention and rest with awareness. It encourages us to find a sustainable balance between productivity and relaxation, working hard when necessary but also making time to rest, rejuvenate, and care for our bodies and minds. 2. Food and exercise. The Buddha's teachings on the middle way can also be applied to how we care for our bodies. One of the most common extremes people face today is the obsession with dieting and fitness, often leading to extreme restriction or overindulgence. We may either deprive ourselves of the nutrients our bodies need or consume in excess, both of which lead to discomfort, illness, or mental and emotional distress. Living the middle way means eating in a way that nourishes the body, practicing moderation, and finding joy in food without becoming obsessed. It's about enjoying healthy food and exercise in a way that supports our well-being, not as a means of punishment or excessive self-control. In other words, it's about moderation, not extremes. Balance in what we consume, in both food and exercise, helps us live in harmony with our physical selves. I once knew someone who became obsessed with fitness and dieting. They had set out to achieve a certain body image and worked tirelessly towards this goal, often depriving themselves of food, pushing their bodies to exhaustion, and obsessing over every detail of their diet. At first, it seemed like they were achieving success. They lost weight, gained muscle, and appeared to be in peak physical condition. But despite their success, they were never truly happy. They were constantly exhausted, irritable, and unhappy with their progress, always focused on the next goal. The stress and anxiety that came from this obsession left them feeling disconnected from their body and spirit. It wasn't until they embraced a more balanced approach to health, eating nourishing food, exercising for strength and flexibility, and focusing on overall well-being rather than an idealized image of perfection, that they found peace. They realized that the key to true well-being was not in extreme deprivation or obsessive workouts, but in moderation and self-care. They started enjoying exercise for the joy it brought them, rather than the pressure of achieving a certain look. They learned to listen to their body and honor its needs, finding a sense of peace and balance that they hadn't known before. This experience was a powerful reminder that the middle way is about embracing both our physical and spiritual needs. It is not about denying the body's desires, but about learning to live in harmony with them. This balance brings true peace, joy, and a sense of well-being that is sustainable and nourishing. The middle way also teaches us how to find balance in our relationships. We may swing between extremes, becoming overly attached to others or, conversely, emotionally distant and detached. Both extremes lead to suffering. Overattachment often leads to expectations and dependency, which can create stress and resentment. On the other hand, emotional distance and detachment can lead to loneliness and a lack of meaningful connection. The middle way invites us to find balance, to love and care for others deeply, while also allowing them the freedom to be themselves. It teaches us to approach relationships with equanimity, maintaining healthy boundaries without shutting ourselves off from the world. We learn to give love freely without clinging to it, and to accept love gracefully without the need to control or possess. This balance fosters harmony and peace in our relationships, allowing us to experience love without attachment. Take a moment to reflect on areas of your life where you may be living in extremes. Are you overworking yourself? Are you pushing yourself too hard in your fitness goals? Are you either overindulging in food or depriving yourself? Identifying these extremes is the first step toward finding balance. Once you've identified the extremes, make a conscious effort to find moderation. This doesn't mean eliminating pleasures or discipline entirely, but it means finding a healthy balance that allows you to enjoy life while also nurturing your well-being. Balance is not about perfection. It's about finding what works for you. Be kind to yourself when you slip into extremes. Gently remind yourself of the middle way and practice self-compassion. Every step toward balance is progress. Sometimes, finding balance requires simplifying our lives. Remove distractions, unnecessary commitments, or things that cause stress or confusion. Create space for what truly matters, and focus on the present moment. The middle way is a path of balance, mindfulness, and moderation. It teaches us that true happiness comes not from indulging in excess or denying ourselves the joys of life, but from finding harmony in all aspects of our existence. By embracing the middle way, we can cultivate a life that honors both our spiritual and material needs, leading to a more peaceful, fulfilling, and joyful existence. The Buddha's teachings remind us that extreme paths, whether of indulgence or austerity, lead to suffering. The middle way is the antidote to this cycle of craving and deprivation. It is a way of living that honors the present moment, finding joy in the simple things, and understanding that true freedom comes from balance, not excess. May we all walk the middle way, embracing both the joys and challenges of life with grace, wisdom, and compassion. Through this practice, we can find peace and fulfillment, and live a life of lasting happiness. As we come to the end of today's journey through the timeless wisdom of Buddhism, remember this. These teachings are not just words on a page. They're the keys to unlocking peace, happiness, and freedom. But the real transformation begins when you start applying these principles in your own life. If you found value in this video, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your friends, family, and anyone you think could benefit from this wisdom. And leave us a comment below. Tell us how the Buddhist teachings are impacting you. Which principle spoke to you the most? How will you apply it to your life? We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. This is just the beginning. If you want to continue on this journey of inner discovery, make sure to subscribe to Buddhism and Life. We'll continue bringing you more profound insights, guiding you towards a life filled with peace and wisdom. Thank you for being here. Remember, peace is not something you have to chase. It's something you can find in every moment. See you in the next video.